Welcome back to the garden here in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B. I'm going to show you a few things that are really showing off. Here, we're about the third week of May, and you'd expect things to be jumping and flowering and doing things that they're supposed to be doing. Some things are a little ahead of where they normally are, and I've gotten a lot of questions about that on Q&As and other things about people's fall blooming sedums are flowering already, and things are just seem to be all over the place this year. I don't know if it was related to how things went to sleep, back in the fall and in December, but things have definitely been all over the place. The early flowering things here bloomed super early. Then we had a gap, and now it seems like we're getting all the things that should be blooming now and the things that should be blooming later. Kind of interesting. This Juliet Cleyera continues to just be a standout in this garden. This is a Southern Living Plant Collection piece. It was about a third this height. It's one of those plants, you put it in the ground and you go, man, it's gonna be I'm using it as a screen for this chain link fence back here, but it's gonna be forever. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and it's almost to the height of the chain link fence. And I think by the end of this season, it'll be up in this 4 to 5 foot range. It really loves this spot. This is one of those plants that you're going to see full sun on the tag or part shade. This one's probably getting a little more shade than it would probably like, since it's stretched just a hair. So it's, it's stretching for light just a bit. So I'll probably have to prune on it sometime midsummer just to, because it's going to continue to stretch and be a little thin if I don't. But otherwise, what a fantastic plant. It has this bronzy new foliage on it, and then it settles into kind of a creamy white and yellow variegation, and every leaf looks individually painted. It's not a consistent variegation, and it's almost like literally every leaf is painted on that plant. So one of our favorite, just stand out. Of course, it's everything in this garden. Most of it's variegated or chartreuse. So this is one of those pieces. Throughout this video, you're gonna see piles of mulch in this garden tour this week. I've got mulch piles everywhere that need to be raked out. It'll get done in the next few days, but the hardest part of the work now is done, once you at least get it to the bed, just a little bit more on the driveway. One of the things that jumped ahead is the Hosta. I don't know how many Hosta we have out here now. I don't know how many different varieties there are. It's in the, I don't know, I have no idea. It's dozens and dozens now. We just keep collecting them, but almost all of them are in the process of already sending up flowers, which seems to be a little bit earlier than they normally do that, but looking forward to all of them being in flower. And again, there's a lot of showy Hosta out here. We'll go through here at some point and do a video just on, some of the shade perennials that are out here that maybe we haven't covered as much in the past. The other thing that's taken off now is the Hydrangea macrophylla. I know a lot of folks, lost the flowers on theirs during that December freeze. Luckily, ours back in this back garden space are protected from the wind somewhat. And so that one against the house, that was from a neighbor 2 doors down, rooted that for Steph. It's probably something like Nico Blue, which is one of the older varieties. So it's not a remontant repeat blooming variety, but it's a very reliable flowering variety, and it's very, very happy up there against the house. And again, it didn't get any damage. We've got a couple that Dr. Durr gave us that are getting started flowering here, and they've got a little bit more pink in them so far. My guess is that they just weren't in the ground long enough to take advantage of the aluminum and the low pH there to get any blue in them, but they look like they're going to be pink this year. But interested in seeing those flowers. Those are one of a kind. Those are from Dr. Durr's throwaway pile, which are still some of the greatest plants I've ever. 3 or 4 of our plants in his garden are from, he'll let you take something home that he's not going to ultimately introduce, and you go, you wonder why he's not introducing it. It's so nice. So looking forward to those being in full bloom. This hosta is called Dancing Queen. It's about, several people have asked about it. It's in the other videos, and we haven't talked about it. It's another one though that's in the process of sending up a flower spike, and really, really beautiful. That one over there is called Great Expectations. That first one we showed you, and I'm going to show you one more in this video. Several things here. This agapanthus is on its way back. We've got 4 flower spikes on this dwarf one. This is a blue one that stays a little bit smaller, and we've got a white one out in the front garden we'll show you in a minute. It's already blooming. Another one that's probably in my area slightly ahead. I mean, if you were in Florida, that you probably have seen your agapanthus start blooming, but here typically it takes them a little while to get going in the spring. kind of almost tropical, and it takes them a while to get going. So we're really surprised. Every single one has flower buds on it. This is a camellia that definitely a new variety. I'm excited about it. It's one that I have found, and we've got it rooted and growing out. We're going to take some more cuttings on it this year. This hydrangea is called Dear Dolores. This is a remontant one, meaning it will bloom on old wood and new wood. So even if it had gotten damaged from that December freeze, it would have still flushed out during the season, at least given us a few flowers. You'll notice the blue here and the pink over there. We were actually able to do this in the nursery business. You know, I think a lot of people think it's only pH related. You know, having a low or acidic soil gives you the blue flowers, but you actually need aluminum present. And so if you're, you know, if they're really light blue and you want them darker blue, you would add aluminum. It just doesn't matter to me. If they're pink, blue, purple, I don't care. I think they're all still beautiful without trying to manipulate them, but that's what's going on over here. The roots on that side are, you know, got something else going on, and we could do that in containers. I could actually take a 3 or 5 gallon hydrangea and just put aluminum sulfate on half the container and get some blue and some pink in the same container. So that was always kind of fun to do that with. Another one that gets asked about all the time is the Brigadoon St. John's wort. Frequently I'll stand here and have my back to these screening plants, and everybody wants to know what that yellow plant is. This St. John's wort will bloom, but it doesn't bloom very much. I mean, we've seen maybe 5 flowers on this in 2 years. When it does, they're beautiful yellow typical flowers for Hypericum or St. John's wort, and the bees absolutely love them, but we just never see many flowers on it. We're really just growing it for this foliage. And late winter, we just mow this off. I ran the mower through here. I think I showed cutting it with some shears, and then later on I just went over it with a mower to clean it the rest of the way up. And it just comes out all fresh like this, and pretty much stays like this all summer long. It's been the part shade conditions. It's getting good bright light, but not so much that, you know, some of these gold foliage things here in the south, you know, don't hold up, you know, all that well, you know, to all day sun. We've got containers kind of everywhere. We put up a container planting video this past week with these things that you're seeing here, because we're in the process finally of starting this patio project over here, and starting to lay out, painting some lines on the ground for how it's going to be a brick stripes across the stone patio to kind of let, you know, to kind of identify where the paths are. So in the process of laying that out, I'm going to start digging it out tomorrow, but all these containers are going to end up on that patio. 2 other standouts in the back garden are these Weigela. That we showed these in flower maybe a month and a half ago or so. But this gold one just continues to be a standout. This Lumancii is the Lumancii aura is the species and cultivar name for this gold one. It doesn't flower as much. It had flowers. It flowers pink and white flowers, but it's not quite as showy as the Shining Sensation back here in terms of flowering. But look at it now. You know, what a show off. This is another, these gold plants like this here in the south, we've got to protect them just a bit from the full sun. So it's getting an hour or 2 of full sun, but then it's in and out of the light the rest of the day. The Shining Sensation did come out and was a real show off flowering, and now it's kind of putting on a second wave of foliage that is more showy than the first round was. And man, these two together just look absolutely fantastic. I'll control the height a bit on this Shining Sensation here in the next few weeks, but I'm going to enjoy this new fresh foliage for a while first though. This is another Southern Living Plant Collection piece. This is a Podocarpus called Mood Ring. And for the first 1.5 years or so, I had to cut this thing in half. It had gotten a little bit of winter damage on it, and I didn't plant it in time. And it was my abuse of the plant that led me to have to just cut it in half and make that decision. But it's finally responded, lots of new growth, and it's finally doing what it's sold as, which is the reason it's called Mood Ring is because it leaves out with these really interesting pink colors, and it goes to a color transformation on the way to the old foliage being green. Beautiful plant. If you have a upright, you know, if you have a narrow space that you're trying to create a screen, which is kind of what we have back here, this is a great plant for that. It's going to be almost entirely vertical, have an entirely vertical growth habit with very little shearing whatsoever. I'll shape it up once or twice here or there, but eventually it'll be 10, 12 15 feet tall here and be quite full. But I do love this new growth on it. You know, it's a real show off over here. So this annual border video went up last week on 7 ways. There are 7 steps to maintain your summer annuals, and I cut these salvia in that video. So it was only, and these the other things that are in this border, that was only gosh, 6 or 7 days ago, and they've already responded with tons of new growth. They're going to be so full now. I think I can just leave them be for a few months. But we have lots of salvia blooming in this garden already, and so I think there's, if I'm looking behind me back here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, including these, 7. I see an 8th one over there. There's a couple back here behind me, 9, 10, just right in this space, and the pollinators absolutely love them. They don't care. They just, I mean, it's their kind of their go-to thing back here, and they're all so easy, colorful, and we have a rabbit issue, and the rabbits just don't mess with any of the salvias, so that's kind of an important component. If you have deer, same thing, but you know, they're all different kinds of salvia. Some will be perennial for us, some will be annuals for us. They're kind of all over the place in that regard. But if you live from zone 4 to zone 10, you can find perennial ones, and then all of them, of course, can be used as annuals if it's too cold for them in your area. But they're all worth it. I mean, I can get a salvia in a 4-inch container like this one, and it's already, you know, quadrupled in size. It'll be this big this season and this wide. When what else could I get that much color out of and that much attention from hummingbirds and from bees, you know, throughout the season? One of the other things that gets asked about, if I don't mention it in a video, is this bronze fennel. It's just such a show off out here in the garden. This is the 2nd year it's returned, and it's just bigger, better, fuller each time. It's just so striking. Everything else you put around it, you know, looks great with that fine texture. The dahlias are starting to show off back here behind in the back of the vegetable garden. Dahlia season is upon us. We've got a lot of dahlias planted out here, and they all look very good. But we've up to, you know, about 4 flowers so far. I think it'll be June before all of them are flowering. Some of those are ones. Some are hybrids, and then some are also ones where we've collected the seed, where they've crossed one another. So exciting new varieties. This Miss Saori Hydrangea macrophylla went in a video on how to plant a hydrangea maybe a week and a half ago, and the flowers were still, you know, they looked like this at the time. They're starting to show a little bit more. Of course, if you put something in the ground like this that's completely budded up and you stress it by planting it, it's going to underperform slightly flowering that first year in all likelihood, unless you just get absolutely totally lucky and the whole world aligns. You can expect it to not be the best flowering that it's ever going to do. So next year I expect these to be quite a bit bigger, but those are the expectations, that I try to set for folks. Is, I get so many questions on the question and answer video. I planted it 4 weeks ago and it's such and such. I planted it in the fall and it's such and such. Be patient. A lot of times things just have to transition into the ground. Even the colors of flowers sometimes can be different. The first year that they go in the ground. Definitely the size of the flowers will be different year to year. Our potatoes are really going wild right now. It's been a great potato season so far. We're getting cool days. We're getting cool nights. Cool nights is mainly the main thing, because most of the growth on these plants occur during nighttime temperatures, and at least for the next 10 days, we don't have anything. I think there's only 2 days that are around 80 on our forecast. It's just completely wild. Normally by this time of May, we're, starting to get definitely consistent upper 80s and flirting with the 90s at this point. So feeling super lucky about that thus far, and I hope that continues, because I'd like to get another 3 or 4 weeks of growth out of the potatoes. The Butterfly Towers butterfly bush is the first one out of the gate blooming this year. This is the upright fastigiate variety that grows tall and narrow. It's planted out here by that fence and the curb, so couldn't have anything too wide. But that thing, this is the 3rd season in the ground, and it just, man, what a great plant that is. We did a video on the butterfly candy dwarf butterfly bush series, and that we planted 5 of those back there in the vegetable garden near where that bronze fennel was. We'll show those off in the next couple of weeks. They've all budded up and all are ready to start blooming. Probably our best overall coneflower in the garden is this PowWow white coneflower. In fact, all the PowWow series really perform quite well out here in the garden. And you know, it's one of those things where we get a lot of these coneflowers just look so great in a retail setting, and they just don't come back all that well. We have great luck with the Sombrero series, great luck with the PowWow series, and then kind of the straight species ones that we've done from seed, just our native coneflowers. Those are the ones we tend to have the best luck with. Here's an example of that. You know, returning vigorously every year. Some of the other ones, you know, I don't see as much consistency with. The flowers are interesting, the flowers are neat, but I'm almost thinking that a lot of them are kind of annuals, or just, you know, beautiful in containers. Let's call it that, beautiful container plants. Holly is a husky mix, and this is what it looks like after you brush her. Oh, that's one time brushing her this afternoon. And that was after, on a walk, I had spent a lot of time trying to get hair off of her. It's just absolutely incredible how much that dog can shed. We put up a couple conifer videos with all the little dwarf conifers and conifers that aren't dwarf, maybe 2 weeks ago, back to back. The Sapphire Nymph did not look this good at the time. It's really put on a lot of new growth now. It's just such a great looking plant. But I wanted to show you here, this is Queen Mum, Agapanthus. Yeah, we have Ever White as well in the back garden, but this is Queen Mum. So that's the first one we've seen a flower on. It's buried again. It's buried a bit in mulch. I just put this out here. I've got to spread it around, but I wanted to show that Agapanthus off blooming. Annual borders, again, out here in the front garden are jumping as well. I think I showed this last week, and it is probably almost doubled in volume the individual plants have in a single week. Amazing how fast these things can grow. And you know, the nighttime temperatures are, you know, what kind of control that, and they seem to be happy at, you know, 55 or so. 60 degrees is about where we're at this point. This other annual border on the other side, I'm going to cut these down just like I did in the video for the back garden. Everything is, you know, it's kind of a single piece coming up tall. And so I feel like if I go across here one more time, within a week, you can see from the back garden, within a week, how fast they respond, how much more of the ground they'll cover after I cut them one time. It's not, you know, not the funnest thing in the world, but they respond well to it. This red Hydrangea, we're still anxiously awaiting the color of it. That's as close as we've gotten to seeing it yet. But we have lots of Hydrangea in this border, white ones, kind of your typical purple or bluish color varieties, but this one right there is red. And again, across this whole border, everything is responding well. Again, there's mulch piles everywhere. Actually, is this one of them? Yeah, this is one of them. So they're calling that red. And it's, you know, it's reddish, right? Yeah, red flint is the name of that variety. This is a light lavender ageratum called Lita. Really excited about this one, but I can tell you that you're never going to see the bright color through that lens. It just won't pick up these subtle little lavender colors. Great looking plant. The Cestrum parqui has started to show color, and I know this is early for it. It gets killed to the ground every year, and I don't think it was flowering until later in the summer last year. And once it starts flowering, it'll flower all summer long, but I'm sure this is a little early, earlier than it did last year. And it's already, what, 4.5 feet tall? From killed to the ground to 4.5 feet tall and blooming by the 20th, 21st of May, something like that. The hummingbirds just love this plant. Every one of these little side shoots on these branches will be flowers in the next few weeks. We'll wrap up this little quick weekly garden tour in the front garden in front of the Empress of China dogwood. I think we'll show, I have the mulch raked out this week, have some more of these annuals kind of pruned off. I'll put some finishing touches on some things, starting the patio in the back garden. Other plans after that, the actual house construction of the exterior of the house, we're hoping that gets started in the next couple of weeks as well. Just waiting on that, waiting on one additional quote that's part of that. And the company I'm working with seems pretty good, and they're going to say they can get on it pretty quick. So lots of projects are going to happen really quickly, and then there's going to be you know, a much more kind of polished look to this thing. It's taken, you know, 3 years to get here with house projects, garden projects, you know, trees were originally removed, you know, all kinds of steps to get here. But I do think that during the month of June, this place is really going to, you know, look like a very finished garden space. So thank you guys for following along with it.